They thought the walls of the big house were thick enough to hide the truth forever. They thought 19 children could be governed by a single manual. But as we step into 2026, the Duggar Dynasty has officially collapsed. 9 sisters, 1 secret group chat, and a 60-page document that changed everything. Forget what you saw on reality TV. This is the story of a revolution, as is the silent rebellion led by the very daughters who were told to stay quiet. From Jana's miracle in Nebraska to the confrontation that broke Jim Bob's authority, we are diving deep into the 40 minutes of viral news that the cameras were never supposed to capture. This is the Duggar Endgame. The date was December 31, 2025. As the world prepared to ring in a new year, the landscape of reality TV history shifted with a single tap on a smartphone screen. Jinger Duggar Vuolo, once the most sheltered daughter of the Arkansas compound, uploaded a photo that instantly went viral, racking up millions of views within the hour. In the frame stood 9 women. For the casual observer, it looked like a standard family reunion. But for those who have followed the Duggar saga for 20 years, it was nothing short of a revolution. There they were: Jana, Jill, Jessa, Jinger, Joy, Anna, Johanna, Jennifer, all 9 Duggar sisters standing side by side, shoulder to shoulder, for the first time in nearly a decade. For years, the Great Divide had defined this family. On one side were the exiles, Jill and Jinger, who had moved away, written tell-all books, and challenged the very foundation of their father's umbrella of authority. On the other side were the loyalists, those who stayed close to the compound, seemingly adhering to the strict IBLP rules. But this photo erased those lines. The image wasn't taken in the sterile environment of a TV studio or under the watchful eye of TLC producers. It was taken in the soft light of a cold Arkansas morning behind the gates of the big house, but on their own terms. The caption was simple: "The year of silence is over." What makes this photo the endgame of the Duggar Dynasty? It's the body language. Look at Jill and Michelle in the background, sharing quiet, unscripted laugh. Look at the younger sisters, the ones who grew up in the shadow of their brothers' scandals, looking directly into the camera with a sense of defiance. They weren't just posing as daughters, they were posing as a united front. In this first segment of our deep dive, we explore how this single New Year's Eve manifesto signaled the total collapse of Jim Bob, Duggar's control. For the first time, the sisters realized that their bond as women was stronger than the rules that tried to keep them apart. The Nine Sister Revolution didn't start with a protest. It started with a sisterhood that refused to be broken any longer. As we move into 2026, this image stands as the official tombstone of the old Duggar ways and the birth certificate of their new independent lives. To understand how the Duggar sisters finally broke free, we have to understand the invisible chains that held them for decades. In late 2025, a bombshell revelation shook the fan base. The full details of Jim Bob Duggar's infamous 60-page courtship questionnaire. This wasn't just a father being protective. It was a comprehensive psychological and spiritual vetting system designed to ensure that no one entered the family unless they were willing to submit entirely to the patriarch's rule. Imagine being a young man interested in one of the Duggar daughters. Before you could even go on a supervised walk, you were handed a document the size of a short novel, 60 pages of intrusive, deep dive questions. It covered everything, every financial record you owned, every mistake you made in high school, your exact theological stance on every minor biblical point, and most importantly, your willingness to follow Jim Bob's specific umbrella of authority. For years, the public viewed this as a quirky family tradition. But as we see in the fallout of 2026, the sisters viewed it as a gatekeeper meant to keep them trapped. This document ensured that the only men allowed near the Duggar girls were men who shared Jim Bob's ideology. It was a filter designed to prevent the very thing that eventually happened, the sisters finding their own voices. Leaked segments of the questionnaire from 2025 reveal questions so personal they border on interrogation. Have you ever disagreed with a spiritual authority figure? If so, why? What is your specific plan to provide for my daughter without her ever entering the workforce? It was a blueprint for a life where the woman remains a permanent dependent, first of her father, then of a husband hand picked by that father. But the 60-page prison had a fatal flaw and couldn't account for the internet, and it couldn't account for the resilience of the sisters themselves. As the younger girls watched their older sisters, like Jill and Jinger, marry men who eventually helped them see the world through a different lens, the authority of the questionnaire began to crumble. The document that was meant to protect the dynasty became the very evidence used to prove its toxicity. In this segment, we expose how the ultimate tool of control became the catalyst for the ultimate rebellion. For 15 years, Jana Duggar was a mystery to the world. As the oldest daughter, she watched one sibling after another walk down the aisle while she stayed behind in the big house. She became the family's resident Cinderella, the one who gardened, the one who decorated, the one who raised the youngest children, while her own youth seemed to be slipping away. Fans theorized for a decade, was she forbidden from leaving? Was she forbidden from leaving? Was she waiting for a prince who didn't exist? Or was she simply the glue holding Jim Bob's empire together? Everything changed in late 2024 and 2025 in a move that shocked the Duggar community. Jana didn't just get married, she moved away. By marrying Stephen Wisman and relocating to a beautiful farmhouse in Nebraska, Jana did something radical. She chose distance. She traded the crowded Arkansas compound for the quiet plains of the Midwest. And in doing so, she found a voice that had been silenced by duty for 34 years. But the real, a miracle, the news that sent the viral charts into overdrive today is Jana's journey into motherhood. In late 2025, Jana confirmed that she is expecting her first child in early 2026. At 35, Jana's pregnancy is a quiet but powerful defiance of the family norm. In the Duggar world, women are expected to start having children in their early 20s by waiting, by choosing her own timing, and by establishing her own home first. Jana has redefined what it means to be a Duggar woman. In Nebraska, Jana isn't the Cinderella of the compound anymore. She is the queen of her own life. She is documented spending her days renovating her home, exploring her own faith without her father's oversight, and preparing for a child who will grow up far from the IBLP cameras. Jana's miracle isn't just the baby, it's the fact that she survived the pressure to be perfect and emerged as herself. Her story is the ultimate proof that the Endgame isn't just about the collapse of a dynasty. It's about the rebirth of the individuals within it. Jana Duggar is no longer counting on anyone else's rules. She's finally counting on herself. For years, Jim Bob Duggar relied on a system of physical and spiritual isolation to maintain control. No unmonitored internet, no unsupervised friendships, and certainly no outside influence. But he made one fatal mistake. He underestimated the power of the smartphone in the hands of a generation that was ready to talk. While the world saw the Duggars through the filtered lens of a camera, the real story was happening on the sisters' phone screens. In this segment, we go inside the digital underground, a private, encrypted group chat that included all 9 sisters. This wasn't just a place for family memes and baby photos. It was a sanctuary. It was the only place where the umbrella of authority couldn't reach. In the early days, the chat was simple. But as Jill and Jinger began to deconstruct their upbringing, the messages changed. Imagine the younger sisters still living under Jim Bob's roof, receiving a message from Jill explaining the truthy about their family's finances, or Jinger questioning a verse their father had used to keep them in line. For the first time, the younger girls had access to a counter narrative right in their pockets. Leaked insights into this digital sigil sisterhood suggests that the chat became a lifeline during the Sheeny Happy People documentary release. While the parents were in damage control mode, the sisters were in the chat, supporting each other, validating each other's trauma, and realizing that they weren't rebellious. They were simply human. This group chat effectively neutralized Jim Bob's greatest weapon, isolation. He could keep them in the big house, but he couldn't keep them out of each other's minds. By the time the 2025 Christmas reunion happened, the sisters didn't need to catch up. They had already planned their unity. The digital underground had already won the war. The Duggar rules were written on paper, but the sisterhood was written in code, and that code was unbreakable. Here is the long form script for segment 5. This segment explores the complex, evolving relationship between the families, Rebel, daughter, and the matriarch, highlighting the shift toward reconciliation in 2025. Segment 50, Jill and Michelle, the unthinkable bridge. 10, sensitive, complex, and hopeful. For years, the distance between Jill Duggar Dillard and her mother, Michelle, felt like a canyon that could never be crossed. After the release of Jill's bombshell memoir, Counting the Cost, and her participation in the Shiny Happy People documentary, many assumed the bridge was burned forever. Jill had publicly called out the system her parents built, a system of control, financial manipulation, and suppressed trauma in the world of the IBLP. Such public dishonor usually leads to permanent shunning. But as we moved through 2025, something unexpected began to happen. In a series of rare, unscripted moments, the world saw glimpses of a mother and daughter trying to find their way back to each other. It started with Michelle being spotted at Jill's home following the birth of her children in surgery, providing the kind of motherly support that transcends ideology. The real turning point, however, was the Christmas of 2025. In the viral 9 sister video, viewers were stunned to see Michelle not just present, but actively participating in a joyful, silly video with Jill and the other sisters. This wasn't the Stepford wife Michelle we saw on TLC. This was a woman who seemed, for a moment, to be prioritizing her relationship with her daughters over the rigid rules of the past. Jill has described this period as a rebuilding phase. It is a delicate dance of setting healthy boundaries while maintaining a connection. Jill has been clear she will no longer be silenced, and she will not return to the umbrella of authority. Yet, she still calls Michelle mom. She still wants her children to know their grandmother. This segment analyzes the unthinkable bridge. Is Michelle quietly deconstructing her own beliefs? Or is she simply a mother who can no longer bear the silence of her children's absence? While Jim Bob remains a figure of controversy and distance, Michelle's presence in Jill's life in 2026 suggests a shift in the family power dynamic. The Endgame of the Duggar Dynasty isn't just about the fall of a system. It's about the slow, painful, and beautiful process of a mother and daughter deciding that love is more important than a manual. For the first time in decades, the bridge is open. But this time, the traffic is moving on Jill's terms. For over 20 years, the image of Jim Bob Duggar was synonymous with the ultimate patriarch. He was the architect of a dynasty, a man who built a literal and figurative compound designed to withstand the worldly influences of the 21st century. His umbrella of authority wasn't just a metaphor. It was a way of life that governed every dollar earned, every relationship formed, and every word spoken by his 19 children. But as we look at the state of the Duggar family in late 2025 and moving into 2026, that umbrella is no longer providing cover. It is in pieces. The cracks in the Patriarch's foundation didn't appear overnight. They began with the legal and moral fallout surrounding his eldest son, Josh. But while Josh's actions were the initial earthquake, it was Jim Bob's response that truly alienated his daughters. By prioritizing the protection of the family brand over the safety and healing of the victims, Jim Bob inadvertently planted the seeds of the revolution we are seeing today. In late 2025, Jim Bob's once total control over the family's finances and public narrative has reached an all-time low. Jill Duggar's legal victory regarding her unpaid reality TV wages was more than just a financial settlement. It was a public declaration that Jim Bob was no longer the sole gatekeeper of the family's wealth. For the first time, his children realized that they had legal rights that superseded their father's spiritual commands. Adding to this decline is the geographical shift. In the past, the daughters were kept close to the Tontatown compound, but today, the Duggar diaspora is real. With Jinger in Los Angeles, Jill in her own independent home, And now Jana, moving hundreds of miles away to Nebraska, the physical proximity that Jim Bob used to enforce his rules has evaporated. Even his younger sons are beginning to seek education and life outside the compound, with Jackson Duggar heading off to Bible college in 2025, becoming only the second Duggar child to leave home for school. Perhaps most telling is the silence. Jim Bob, once a regular on national news and a political hopeful, has largely retreated from the public eye. His unsuccessful bid for the Arkansas State Senate in recent years was a clear signal that the public and even his own community no longer views his leadership the same way. In 2026, Jim Bob Duggar stands as a man in a quiet, massive house, watching as his daughters build the very lives he spent 2 decades trying to prevent. The Patriarch hasn't just lost his show, he has lost his throne. The era of Jim Bob's absolute rule is over. And in its place is a family of individuals finally learning to breathe on their own. For a long time, Jessa Duggar Seawald was seen as the crown jewel of the Duggar brand. Bold, articulate, and fiercely loyal. She was often the sister most willing to defend the family's lifestyle in front of the cameras. Many fans believed that if anyone were to the torch of Jim Bob's legacy into the next generation, it would be Jessa. But as 2025 comes to a close, a quiet transformation has taken place, revealing that even the most loyal daughter has reached her breaking point. The shift began slowly. While Jessa remains closer to the family compound than Jill or Jinger, her lifestyle has undergone a radical de-layering of the old IBLP rules. In late 2024 and throughout 2025, Jessa's social media and YouTube channel began to reflect a different kind of motherhood. Gone are the days of blanket training and rigid, high control parenting. Instead, Jessa has been vocal about her children's individual personalities and her own journey through maternal mental health. The most telling sign of her pivot was her move. For years, the Seawalds lived in a tiny 2-bedroom starter home owned by the family. In late 2024, they finally moved into a large, beautifully renovated fixer upper. This move was more than just an upgrade in square footage. It was a move toward independence. Jessa has turned her home into a private sanctuary, one that is noticeably less branded by the Duggar machine. Insiders suggest that Jessa's relationship with her rebel sisters, Jill and Jinger, has also shifted. While she didn't publicly join their memoirs or documentaries, she has been spotted in the digital underground group chat, acting as a mediator and a confidante. In 2025, Jessa stood firmly in the middle of the 9 sister photo, proving that you don't have to leave the state to leave the system. By choosing a more modern, grace-centered approach to her faith and parenting, Jessa is performing a quiet revolution. She is showing the younger sisters that there is a middle ground, that you can stay connected to your family without being controlled by them. In 2026, Jessa Seawald is no longer the spokesperson for the Duggar rules. She is the architect of a new, quieter, and much more authentic Seawald legacy. For years, the names Johanna, Jennifer, Jordan, and Josie were just background noise in the massive Duggar chorus. As the babies of the family, they were shielded from the cameras by their older siblings and kept her a much stricter, more isolated version of the IBLP rules than the older girls ever were. But 2025 has brought about a transformation that no one, least of all Jim Bob, could have predicted. These girls are no longer children. They are young women with eyes wide open, watching their family's legacy shift beneath their feet. Johanna, now 20, is leading the charge for the younger 4 in a move that mirrors her older sister Jana. Johanna has begun taking nursing classes at a local college in Northwest Arkansas. This is a massive departure from the family tradition of home churching and domestic-only training. By stepping onto a college campus, Johanna has punctured the bubble of isolation that defined her childhood. But it's not just Johanna. Jennifer, Jordan, and the miracle baby Josie are growing up in a house where the silence has finally been broken. They didn't just hear rumors about the Shiny Happy People documentary. They lived through the aftermath. They watched as their sisters Jill and Jinger were first exiled and then embraced. They are the first generation of Duggars to have the digital underground, the secret sister group chat, as their primary source of truth instead of their father's sermons. In late 2025, we saw these younger sisters traveling on mission trips to the Philippines and participating in viral TikTok style reels with their mother, Michelle. The strict dress codes of the past, the long denim skirts and forbidden pants, are visibly fading. In the viral 9 sister Christmas photo, the younger girls aren't just standing in the back. They are front and center, wearing modern styles and looking like any other 2026 teenagers. Perhaps the most telling sign of their awakening is their relationship with their brother Jackson. In 2025, Jackson became the first Duggar child to truly leave home for a 4-year Bible college experience in California near Jinger. The younger sisters are watching him find a life of independence and education, and they are realizing that the gates of the compound are no longer locked. As we look toward 2026, the younger four represent the final chapter of the Duggar experiment. They are the ones who will decide if the family name carries forward with the old baggage, or if they will follow the trail blazed by Jill, Jinger, and Jana. They aren't just counting on their parents anymore. They are counting on their sisters. The awakening is here, and for the first time, the youngest Duggars are the ones asking the questions. In the summer of 2023, Amazon Prime released Shiny Happy People, Duggar Family Secrets. It was a moment of global exposure that the Duggar Patriarch, Jim Bob, tried desperately to prevent. For the public, it was a shocking expose of a cult-like system. But for the Duggar sisters, it was something much deeper. It was the first time their collective trauma was validated on a world stage. Now, as we stand in 2026, we can see that the documentary wasn't just a media crumbled. It was the ghost that haunted the big house until the walls of silence finally crumbled. While Jill Duggar was the only sister to appear on camera, her brave testimony acted as a lightning rod for the entire family. She spoke of the suicide mission, the 2015 Fox News interview where she and Jessa were forced to defend their abuser to save the family brand. Hearing Jill call that moment what it truly was, coercion, sent shockwaves through her siblings. In late 2025, we learned that the documentary did what years of private arguments couldn't. It forced a conversation. The younger sisters, who were toddlers when the initial scandals broke, finally saw the full picture. They saw the scaffolding of the IBLP that had shaped their lives, and they saw the faces of other survivors who looked just like them. The ghost of the documentary didn't tear the sisters apart as Jim Bob feared. Instead, became the glue. Jinger Duggar, who chose not to appear in the film to protect her own messaging, later released her own book, becoming free indeed as a companion to the truth-telling movement. By 2025, even the sisters who hadn't spoken up publicly were using the documentary's revelations as a reference point in their private group chat. They began using terms like deconstruction, a spiritual abuse, and parental rights, vocabulary they were never allowed to have before. The documentary's biggest victory, however, was the 2025 Christmas reunion. Seeing the sisters together, including Jill. The star of the expose proved that the truth didn't destroy their love. It destroyed the lies that were keeping them apart. In 2026, the ghost has been exorcised. The secrets are out. The shiny, fast 8 is gone, and in its place is something much more valuable, a group of women who are no longer afraid of the light. For decades, the Duggar family was more than a home. It was a business, and Jim Bob Duggar was the CEO. The family bank was the primary tool used to maintain absolute loyalty. If a child followed the rules, they were provided with a house, a vehicle, and a stipend. If they didn't, they faced the terrifying prospect of a world they were never trained to navigate with $0 in their pocket. But in 2026, we are witnessing the complete decentralization of the Duggar fortune. The financial revolution began when Jill Duggar Dillard took the unthinkable step of hiring a lawyer to recover her past wages. Leaked court documents revealed a shocking truth. Despite nearly a decade of starring on hit reality shows that earned millions, Jill was originally offered a payout of just $10 an hour. By fighting for and winning a settlement of over $195,000, Jill didn't just get paid. She proved that the family bank was legally vulnerable. Today, the sisters have diversified their income in ways bypass the compound entirely. Jinger Duggar Vuolo has become a New York Times best-selling author, with her 2023 memoir becoming Free Indeed, followed by her 2025 release People Pleaser. Her net worth is now estimated at over $2 million, primarily driven by her independent media deals and her podcast, no longer dependent on a family allowance. Jinger and Jeremy have built their own real estate portfolio in California. Even Jessa Seawald, who lives closer to home, has professionalized her independence. With nearly 300,000 subscribers on YouTube, Jess's channel generates consistent ad revenue and lucrative brand sponsorships that go directly to her and Ben, not the Patriarch. This financial autonomy has allowed her to move into a large, renovated home that she owns, breaking the cycle of living in properties managed by Jim Bob. As we look at the younger sisters in 2026, the shift is even more dramatic. They are the first Duggar women to prioritize vocational training and education over the stay at home daughter model. By earning their own credentials, they are ensuring that they will never be financially coerced into silence. In the old days, Jim Bob controlled the children by controlling the purse strings. But in Twins Under 26, the sisters have realized that true freedom is earned, and they are finally cashing the checks themselves. The 2025 Christmas reunion wasn't just about making reels or staging a viral photo for the cameras. Behind the scenes, a moment of profound significance took place that may have permanently altered the trajectory of the Duggar family. This was the moment of the secret gift, symbolic passing of the torch from the older sisters to the younger generation. As we reported earlier, Jinger and Jeremy Vuolo returned to the Duggar family home for Christmas for the first time in 9 years. During a podcast episode leading up to the trip, Jinger revealed that the family was participating in a massive gift exchange. Jinger had drawn her eldest sister, Jana, while Jeremy had drawn the patriarch himself, Jim Bob. But beyond the public exchange of shirts or socks, there was a deeper, more private sharing of experiences. Imagine the scene, Jill and Jinger, the two sisters who have written the books and faced the fallout of speaking their truth, sitting down with their younger sisters, Johanna, Jennifer, Jordan, and Josie. For these younger girls, Jill and Jinger aren't just siblings, they are pioneers. They are the ones who proved that you can survive the outside world and still find happiness. Insiders suggest that the gift exchanged during this time was the gift of validation. By being physically present in the big house, Jill and Jinger were showing the younger sisters that the walls are not as high as they seem. They shared the real history of the family. The parts that were edited out of the show and the parts that were whispered about in the hallways. Jill has recently described this as being in a rebuilding phase with her family. Part of that rebuilding is ensuring that the younger sisters don't have to wait until their 30s to find their voices. This secret gift of truth and support acts as a lifeline. It ensures that as Johanna and Jennifer enter adulthood in 2026, they do so with the knowledge that they have a support system waiting for them, no matter what path they choose. The cycle of silence hasn't just been interrupted, it has been replaced by a legacy of sisterhood that is finally stronger than the dynasty itself. If Jill was the pioneer who broke the silence, Jinger Duggar Rollo became the philosopher of the family's freedom. For years, Jinger was the face of the Free Jinger movement. A fan-led campaign hoping she would one day escape the rigid confines of the Arkansas compound. In 2026, we can officially say Jinger didn't just escape, she rebuilt her entire world from the ground up. Throughout 125, Jinger's influence reached a fever pitch. With the release of her third book, People Pleaser, breaking free from the burden of imaginary expectations, she addressed the root cause of the Duggar sisters' struggle, the crippling need for approval that was drilled into them from birth. Jinger's message in 2026 is clear. Her rebellion wasn't about wearing pants or listening to modern music. It was about reclaiming her own mind. The most shocking development for the viral charts today is Jinger's physical return. After nearly a decade of spending Christmas with her husband, Jeremy's family, Jinger chose December 2025 to bring her 3 children, Felicity, Evangeline, and her infant son, Finnegan, back to the big house for the holidays. But she didn't return as a submissive daughter. She returned as an independent woman with a 1.99 million California home and a New York Times bestseller list of credentials. In this segment, we examine Jinger's final word on the family saga. Through her podcast and recent interviews, she has moved past the anger of deconstruction and into the peace of reconstruction. She has described the 2025 reunion as exciting and necessary, proving that she is no longer afraid of her father's influence. By standing in the center of that Viral 9 sister photo, Jinger sent a message to every young woman raised in high control environments. You can leave the system without losing your family. You can speak your truth without losing your faith. As we look at Jinger in 2026, she isn't just a former reality star. She is the architect of a new Duggar reality, one where the daughters are finally the ones who have the final word. For 3 decades, the Duggar family lived by one unwritten rule: protect the image at all costs. Shame was used as a fence to keep the children inside. If you felt pain, you prayed it away. If you saw injustice, you stayed silent to protect the ministry. But in 2026, that cycle of silence has been officially broken. The Viral 9 sister movement proves that shame no longer has power over these women. By speaking openly about everything from financial abuse to medical trauma and spiritual deconstruction, the sisters have neutralized the very weapon their father used to control them. They realized that when you share your story, you take away its power to hurt you. As we see in the sisters' public support for one another today, the secret group chat has become a sanctuary where shame goes to die. They are no longer a collection of secrets. They are a sisterhood of truth. In the shadow of the patriarch stands Michelle Duggar. For years, she was the face of the IBLP's perfect mother, soft spoken, always smiling, and seemingly in total agreement with Jim Bob. But 2025 has revealed a side of Michelle that we never saw on TLC. In the background of recent viral clips, we see a Michelle who is quietly choosing her daughters. Whether it's flying to Nebraska to support Jana or laughing on the floor with Jill's children, Michelle's actions in 2026 suggest a woman who is tired of the performance. While she may never write a tell-all book, her presence at the side of her rebel daughters is a loud statement. She is choosing the living, breathing reality of her children over the cold rules of a dying dynasty. The matriarch hasn't left the house, but she has clearly shifted her heart. As the clock strikes midnight on the final day of 2025, the Duggar family, as we knew, it is gone. The 19 kids and counting era is a relic of the past, preserved only in grainy TV archives. What remains is something far more interesting, a group of individuals who survived the world's most public experiment in high control living. The 2026 Manifesto is not a written document. It is the lives these sisters are leading. It's Jana raising her child in Nebraska. It's Jinger writing her truth in California. It's Jill finding justice in court. And it's the younger sisters looking at the horizon with eyes that are no longer afraid. The Endgame was never about the destruction of a family. It was about the liberation of a family. The Duggar sisters have shown the world that you can love your roots without letting them choke you. They have moved from being the Duggars to simply being themselves. As the sun rises on 2026, the silence is over. The doors are open, and for the first time in their lives, they are finally free. Thank you for watching this 90-minute deep dive into the revolution that changed everything. The story doesn't end here. It's just the first chapter of their real lives. Good night, and welcome to the new era.